There is a strange habit in South Africa of treating distant wars as if they belong to another world. The explosions happen in deserts with unfamiliar names. The maps look far away. But modern geopolitics has a way of shrinking the planet. A war in the Middle East does not stay in the Middle East. It travels through oil prices, alliances, and political loyalties. For many years, South Africa tried to position itself as neutral in global disputes. Recently, that position has become more complicated. The ruling party, the ANC, has often taken diplomatic positions that appear sympathetic toward Iran and openly critical of the USA. This matters because the United States remains one of South Africa's most important economic partners. Billions of dollars in trade move between the two countries every year. South African exports rely heavily on access to American markets. When political tensions grow between Pretoria and Washington, those economic ties can suddenly become uncertain. The situation becomes even more sensitive when the American political climate is taken into account. Donald Trump and many figures in his political camp have taken a hard line against Iran for years. From that perspective, any country that openly aligns with Tehran risks being seen as drifting away from the Western economic sphere. South Africa's participation in the BRICS bloc, alongside countries such as Russia and China, adds another layer to this perception. In global politics, perception often matters almost as much as reality. If Washington begins to view South Africa as leaning too far toward the Iranian or Russian side of global politics, diplomatic pressure could increase. For ordinary South Africans, the consequences would appear first in the economy. Wars in the Middle East almost always push oil prices upward because so much of the world's energy supply moves through that region. When traders fear disruption, prices rise quickly. South Africa imports most of its fuel. That means global price shocks reach local petrol stations very quickly. When petrol rises, transport costs increase. Farmers pay more for diesel to run tractors and trucks. Food prices begin climbing soon afterward. A conflict thousands of kilometers away quietly becomes part of daily life through rising costs. Financial markets also react to geopolitical uncertainty. Currencies from emerging economies often weaken when global investors become nervous. The rand is particularly sensitive to international political risk. When tensions rise between major powers, the currency can fall, making imports even more expensive. Then there is another layer to the conversation that appears almost every time the Middle East moves closer to war. That layer is prophecy. Some people begin looking toward ancient biblical texts, wondering whether modern events might reflect predictions written thousands of years ago. One of the most frequently mentioned passages comes from the book of Ezekiel. In chapters 38 and 39, a coalition of nations is described gathering for a future conflict involving Israel. Among the names mentioned is Persia. Historically, Persia refers to the region known today as Iran. Because of that single reference, many prophecy interpreters believe Iran must play some role in a future Middle Eastern conflict connected to these passages. Whenever tensions rise between Iran, Israel, and the United States, those interpretations quickly return to public discussion. The Bible, however, does not mention South Africa directly. The modern country simply did not exist in the ancient world. Yet some prophecy researchers have still searched for indirect references. One theory revolves around another phrase found in Ezekiel's prophecy, the merchants of Tarshish. In the passage, these merchants appear as trading powers watching the conflict unfold from the sidelines and questioning what is happening rather than joining the war. Some interpreters believe Tarshish symbolically represents maritime trading nations historically linked to Britain. If that interpretation is stretched far enough, it sometimes includes countries such as Australia, Canada, and South Africa because of their historical connection to the British world. It remains a speculation, but it shows how people repeatedly attempt to map ancient texts onto modern geopolitics. In simple terms, if the Iran war expands, South Africa would likely feel the consequences through growing economic pressure and increasing diplomatic tension between East and West. At the same time, prophecy watchers will continue pointing out that Iran already appears in the book of Ezekiel under the ancient name Persia. Whether viewed through politics, economics, or prophecy, one reality remains clear. In a globalized world, wars rarely stay where they begin. Even conflicts fought far away can eventually reshape the future of countries that never fired a single shot. Please like, subscribe and share. What do you think?